Hey there, welcome to the channel. So today I want to take a look at what's going on with the charts. It is Sunday, October 2nd. All right, so I want to take a look at what's going on with the charts here. So we really had last week was a really bad week, and so I'm going to go to my weekly charts here, and you can see, just look at this stuff. This is this is really bad stuff. This is serious bear market action going on. The key is that we really just decisively blew through. So on the Dow Jones Industrial, it decisively blew through the near term support right over here in the 29,750 range. That was going to be the area where it was going to have to hold. And so we kind of cut through that on like butter. And the volume on it was pretty high too. So when you look at those two things, you kind of get that indication that, hey, man, this is a real deal. And, significant volume on that week for well. Also, looking at the NASDAQ. So all the indices going together, NASDAQ, same kind of thing, breaking that near term support, significant volume. So kind of, lending to conserving basically it's confirming it. You had a relatively high volume week. So this is really not a good sign. So I think we're in that kind of situation with the stock market that if you if you're on this, so just a reminder, I'm on the weekly chart. So each bar is a week. And so you got like 2+ years of data. This is going all the way back to, October 2020. And so, this stuff is playing out over a very long time. And, this is really a key failure point in this area here. So this is your red line here is your 50-week or equivalent of your, not equivalent, but, very similar to your 200 day moving average. So, when you come up and you fail at that very critical long-term moving average, that was really a death knell there. And so now we're in a situation, and see what's interesting here is looking over at this green bar here. This was, this, like, if this was able to hold in here a couple weeks ago, then that would have, could have been a positive sign, because then it could have, if it could have held here, which would have been a decent chunk away from the lows, then it could have maybe built up energy to kind of go back up and try to break through there and give you that kind of W, but it didn't. And then the bar here is an interesting one. Look at this guy here. See this bar on this week, this one over here. This is a huge outside reversal bar. And so what this means is, this thing gapped up at some point. The bar is opening, gapped up, and ended up closing lower, and it really engulfed the entire previous week's trading. So that's very bearish. So you have it there, here, so you follow through and then follow through. So you had 3 weeks of just really crappy action in the stock market. One other thing, let's look at stuff like, so the speculative side of things here. So, it's interesting, our ARK-K here, really hanging out around those lows, kind of following in many ways, sort of following Bitcoin. Because if we go and we look at the Bitcoin chart, it's kind of a similar kind of situation. And I'll just go into the daily on this Bitcoin. We can see that, you know, it's held so far. It keeps coming down to, trying to poke down to almost 18,000, but it hasn't gone through. But here's kind of the thing. When, now, of course, we don't always know, right? We don't know. But the thing is, when you have something like this that's kind of working its way down and it keeps testing and testing, very often it'll just finally break through, because it's what's going on is at some point someone's down there, they're trying to hang on, and if this thing opens up, it's going to be like a trap door, and it is not going to be very good for Bitcoin. So Bitcoin looking horrible as well. Now, looking at the dollar, now last week was interesting because dollar went to really, really highs, but then it sold off. So that's kind of interesting. But overall, the dollar is just on this tear going up. And this is, we have the problem with the pound. We have a problem with basically all the currencies around the world getting weaker to the dollar getting stronger. And if we look at this dollar index here, it's kind of interesting that, you're just getting to that point where you're, uh, you're getting really close to the highs in the 2000s here. You're basically we're at 114 on the dollar index here, and we're pushing up, and so that's a lot. And really the key part of this is like how fast it's moved. The movement. I mean, looking at the recent low at 90 was back in 2021, and here we are 2022, about a year away, maybe a little over a year away, and the thing has moved all the way from 90 all the way up to 114. So one of the issues that you have with things in the financial markets for sure is that currency moves are really a problem, and really fast moves are really a problem because you have to adjust. You could use an example. You could say, hey, look, you're doing business and you have currency risk. You're doing business internationally. And if you have a business running, let's say you have a business running in Europe and it's running well, and business running in the US and it's running well, but all of a sudden you have to deal with all this currency exchange, all these problems, and you can work and model that stuff out. And as long as it's not moving too crazy, then it's not, you can deal with it and hedge. But when you get a currency like the dollar moving like this, on top of the inflation that you had, it just becomes really a disaster here, just a serious issue. So you can see that in a lot of the areas that hey, the the financial stress seems to be growing, and so and then looking at our rates too, our rates followed the dollar and had spiked up to nearly 4% on the 10 year, and then did sell off. So what's going to go on this week? Well, it's all speculation, but given that you have this, it'll be interesting to see, like on the 10 year yield, if we trade this week down below this, and you get the kind of this turns this into a shooting star doji. What that would do is that's not like it wouldn't be like a long term like, oh, it's going to reverse interest rates going up, but it could lead to like a relief in interest rates. It could lead to rates going down possibly, right? So that's the kind of thing that kind of watch on that. And then also with the dollar, so if we see maybe like this would be a week that maybe we could get a setup for um, a little bit of relief on the dollar. So maybe the dollar will go down a little bit and kind of give up some of that. And the same with the interest rates going down. So that would be one positive case. On the negative case, you're just looking at this and what's going out in the economy right now, just all the things that you're watching and hearing, it just wouldn't surprise me to just have something break at some point, because the strong dollar, the high interest rates are causing all kinds of issues in the financial markets. And those kind of issues, like what they will do is they will just get to a point where something goes crack somewhere, something breaks, and it's like, then it becomes a mess. Now, I was surprised to learn that this issue with the pound. So it's reported that um, the Great Britain, the UK central bank is doing some buying of long-term bonds. And I was listening to something today from someone, I think it was Steve Howe or someone else. And, apparently the reason they did that is because they were getting margin calls, all these financial institutions. So it appears that, when you're looking at the pound sterling and you're comparing the issue that we have with the pound, right? So apparently the issue behind this, so we have the pound just dropping through the floor against the dollar. They're basically going to one. They're getting very close. And so the pound has been very weak for some time. I mean, it's been weakening ever since, looks like about 2010. So it's been working its way. But once again, another situation, very fast movement in the currency down. Now, apparently, what's being reported is that what's going on is that there's actually like financial stress. Basically, these financial institutions were getting basically margin calls, and so they were forced selling to meet their margin calls. And if the central bank in the UK didn't step in, then it was possible that there could have been a financial crisis. So that was very interesting to hear. Obviously, we don't know how true that is, but it certainly is a situation where, given what's going on with the dollar, given what's going on with the currencies, we should expect that there's going to be some kind of unintended consequences and financial something's going to blow up and something's going to break. You have the Fed raising rates like they haven't done for since the 70s. And our entire market structure is just not capable of handling that. So that's kind of the other side of the coin. In other words, so if I'm looking at it and saying, hey, looks like we get some relief in the dollar rates, maybe they peaked near term and go off for a couple months. But on the other hand, maybe everything just keeps pushing. The dollar keeps pushing higher, rates keep pushing up, and the market just cracks. And then if the market cracked, I would expect to see Bitcoin finally crack, because Bitcoin and the Qs are kind of go together somewhat. They sort of correlated a little bit, and I think it's going to be interesting because it's there's forces at play that are desperately hanging on here. It just has that sense. I don't know, but it has that sense that desperately hanging on to keep from breaking this 18,000 area, because they just know, like over here, there's no support. There's no support here at all. So this trap door opens up on this thing, and it's just going to be like, this thing is going to be some poor people just you know, trying to like right through the trap door, and just going to have to brace for hitting the pavement down at 10,000 over here. So this kind of thing just seems like there's this desperate action at play here. And at some point, I wonder how much money is being poured into it to just hold that line. Uh, and at what point does the entities that be run out of the financial resources to hold that line? And this thing opens up. And if this thing opens up, I would expect it to open up in concurrence with the market opening up and going down. So it'll be interesting to see this week, kind of keep a look at things. Could be very uneventful, but more of a down week. We could get some kind of maybe reversal, or given what's going on in the pound, I would just look out for trouble. All right, that's it for this one. Bye.